Oh, all right. We have actually, hey, Dane, Tatiana's here. And, I know that we've been emailing her back and forth a little bit. And then Mayo wanted to speak a little bit today. So I wanted to just let this session be a group-led discussion, and then we'll go into the regional details.
All right.
That's all right.
I think
Yeah?
that's great. I feel like we really need to expand on, expand the discussion about more localized forum leadership meetings, and
Yeah, definitely. And
May
I see
I
Alan.
May I offer an invocation, please?
yes.
Start? Okay. Hi, everybody. I am Alan Horn. I am an American Sufi. My Sufi name is Ahad, and I would like to offer this invocation today in honor of the over 300 people who are Sufis who were recently murdered in Egypt. And it goes like this. Toward the one, the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, the only being united with all the illuminated souls who form the embodiment of the Master, the Spirit of Guidance. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We begin in the name of Allah, most merciful and compassionate. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Allah Akbar. Thank you so much. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
I've actually been to Pakistan. I stayed in Islamabad for business. I went there several trips, and it's actually more peaceful than parts of some nations that I've been to, and it was actually very nice there. It's nothing like anyone would see on TV. Now that's Islamabad. I can't say anything for Karachi or anything in between. Wonderful. That was beautiful. Thank you so much, Alan, for our invocation. So today, what we're focusing on a leadership forum, everybody. I think what we wanted to do was have each of you contribute, and some of you have been discussing offline with Dane and I via email. And what's interesting to note is that there are so many things and topics that people want to speak on, our regional leaders want to speak on. So what we're trying to aim for today in this agenda is give you guys a voice to voice out what topics that you'd like to discuss. So Tatiana, can you hear me? Are you there?
I am. Hi, how is everyone doing today? It's such a pleasure to be here.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for inviting us all on, Dane and Jed.
Yeah, it's funny because you've been emailing, we've been missing each other. I've been just swamped, so I'm sorry we didn't get back to you, but I saw you in the chat and I was like, oh my gosh, it's Tatiana. We've got to hear her stuff because you've got some really interesting points that you emailed with me, right?
Yes, thank you. I'm glad that we've had a chance to connect. I know that with the best of intentions, all of us are experiencing externalized interference. I was listening to Dane speaking earlier as everyone was getting on and talking about cyber attacks. It does feel, without giving it too much attention, because I know that's important too, it feels like all of us are experiencing as much interference as the matrix that we are freeing ourselves and liberating ourselves from is trying to hold our creative force within it. And I've noticed that the best thing that we can possibly do when these are happening, the missed emails, the misconnects, Jed, on our attempts to get together through Zoom, is to kind of laugh at it and not dig too deep and then just move into making a new plan. So that's where I am joining all of you today, is giving it little energy and co-creating the future we desire.
That says it exactly. That co-creation energy is it sometimes needs structure, but it's just best to just let it flow.
Yeah.
And when you were emailing me, you were telling me that you've been guided to kind of lead a discussion with us to talk about a couple of things that you wanted to extend your holistic health coaching and intuitive development practice. And now we talked about, protecting yourself, but beyond that, as light workers, you you have to understand that there's a progressive journey on your development. And as leaders in the region as well as worldwide, what's important is that in your development, that you're also not just developing self, but also outwardly developing others. And I glanced at a couple of your works. I was looking online and I just didn't have time to finish, but I wanted you to talk about how your spiritual mastermind groups idea and what that direction would take in terms of that development and how that's needed in a community like ours. So I'll let you have the floor for a little bit. If you have some points you want to talk about on that, that would be very helpful, I think, for all of us.
Certainly, thank you. The groups that I have felt really drawn to create using my experience in both professionally as well as communicative contribution-wise has been how much can we align with others that have the same general vision that we have, and then build from there. And of course, that's the premise of the group as we all come together here. But as we are gathering data, I just want to draw to, if any of those follow any of the videos in the YouTube channel of Cindy K. Courier, she has a tendency to try to look at truth in several layers. And I like her layered effect. And if I can use that and incorporate that with the group today, there's the truth that we believe we were educated within this 3D construct to be real. And then there is the real truth as we start to wake up and realize everything is not as it seems. And then we get into what she would refer to as the comprehensive truth, where there's so many elements to a multiverse and where we have a placement in it. And I see that that's where most of this group is going, where we already know that things are not what they seem. And we would love to red pill more of our friends and our family members and society at large. And as we get through the angst and we mature a little bit in this wake-up call, we move into more of that comprehensive truth where we recognize that it isn't that anything is particularly wrong. There is just a matter as we move from comprehensive and deep truth into uncomprehendable truth that we as co-creators with the divine, as fractalized aspects of the divine, get to choose what we want to co-create in this reality and what we don't want to co-create. And the beauty of this group and many that are supporting it is that we really do want to co-create a gorgeous, benevolent, empowered, generously ascendant worldview, cosmic shift in the sentient consciousness that exists on this plane. And the work of these mini masterminds and the communities that we're building both together here and those that we have an impact on in our immediate families, neighborhoods, professional circles, and in extending outward is that we are so much more powerful if we can move past finding what's wrong with this world. And I know how challenging that is. I do have an internet television show and I have to bring solutionary guests into the forefront so that my listeners can actually hear a hopeful implementation of what really will solve some of the global issues that we're all dealing with. But at the same time, we also have to educate them on what's wrong. And it's a delicate dance. It's a very elegant shift from left to right, from knowing what it is that we don't consider to be ideal or wrong or maybe malevolent, and moving into a place of, you know, without getting caught up in the victimhood and the villainy of that, how do we co-creatively focus our energy away from that education and that understanding to the beauty that we want? And so my focus with the groups that I'm working with is to actively, daily, not get so caught up in the minutia and in the 3D that pulls us back into the matrix of obligation and living in these 3D meat suit vehicles, and remember to be consistently in the meditations as you offer on the website that really help us go back into co-creating the reality that we want here together. And as we do that, less of that intuitive energy that we are all developing, moving into 4 and 5D. All of us are waking up. All of these clairaudient, clairsentient, clairvoyant energies are going to continue to expand, but we're going to be using them more powerfully towards the solutions and that co-creative future that we desire. So there are
Now,
some pieces we need to work on.
now, Tatiana, that's very interesting. You mentioned the co-creative aspect because that in itself has some key factors, and I think the accessing your internal energy, like you put it, your emotional intelligence. That emotional intelligence is, I think, something that's divine within all of us, and you're coaching others to help people access that energy and link it in kind of chain that brings outward service to create a community. In essence, that's how I see foundationally what your work is doing in that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so if you can just tell us a little bit about that, and then how do you balance it being a mother of 5, and then how do you help these people who have a low connection to their emotional intelligence, and then you manage that and then look beyond your minutia, because it's very difficult for a light worker who's in the minutia and then they have a low access to their inner self and they can't see beyond that, and then you have to help them grow. So what's your I mean, in a nutshell, what's your formula?
Well, you have done some background work on me because you picked up on mother of 5. Yes, that's true, that we're all wearing so many hats and playing all these different roles. I'm also a grandmother to 2, and
you don't look it at all. That's amazing.
Oh, that's kind. You are so generous. Thank you, Jed. I appreciate that. The tools that we have available to us are so spectacular now and so abundant. I'm watching in the gallery view, we've got people that are, wearing anything from, copper headdresses with crystals, or they're holding up a stone or a diode, or we have so many tools. I really believe in utilizing the tools that are resonating with us in the very moment that we're in. And so if you want to meditate in your copper pyramid, if you need to do your card spread, if you need to, be holding your prayer beads, it's the time that we're taking where we are not co-creating for the false reality that has served those that we don't really want to waste any time talking about, that are part of keeping this construct that has held our focus and our attention prisoner. What we want to do is sit back in that peaceable space that is a sacred, sequestered, and an internally nurturing space that might be your closet or your meditation room or your altar, and spending more time in that every single day, going as deep as we possibly can. I'm working with shamans and doing a lot of work on my show and within my practice at promoting deeper states of consciousness within meditation. We have receptors in our brains that are looking to be able to tune in and re-network our neurons in a way that escalates us into this 4 and 5D. And some of us may not necessarily be realizing how many opportunities and how many tools we have to be utilizing to be much more powerful in our co-creation. I mean, it's an exponential effect to be layering some of these tools. So I'm within safe bounds, looking to have others take a look at what they have at their disposal in terms of being on sacred retreats where there is the power of meditation, if that's something you can do, if that's something that you can create, utilizing your tools to be able to up-level the power of your meditation. And, that's kind of a longer discussion. If I'd had a template, I would kind of go into each of those tools. But I personally not only utilize the power of community, and my work and my passion is completely in this work. It is really to bring to pass the immortality and eternal life of mankind. And so how does every day play into that role? Without the meditation and without the resyncing of the brain through sacred acoustics, through binaural beats, hemisync, 432 hertz, 928 hertz, reminding our bodies that we are meant to be incorporating every level of realignment of our cellular intelligence, and claiming, as we do with that Merkaba, lifting our energy up to meet these descending dimensional selves of ours, the 4D, the 5D, and much beyond, we really do have to not abandon these physical bodies. We need to retune them like the instruments that they are. So I'm doing a lot of supporting others instead of obfuscating and abandoning and kind of setting aside the physical body, instead bringing that body diva and that connection back into our higher selves to create an incorporation, because from there we create a so much more exponential effect in shifting this reality much more quickly.
So, it's funny you mentioned that, when you're retuning, generally light workers, when they first tap in and they awaken and they start to look at these energies, I think the main concern that I see in community is that if they don't exercise the practice regularly, they become susceptible to these other energies that might bring them down. Or sometimes when you open up or awaken, you become susceptible to attacks. So, from your perspective, Tatiana, what's the process after awakening, and what's the next step to maintain, and then what's the end desired state? What's the process basically for light workers like us in our community to kind of balance that energy and link it together with each other?
Thank you, Jed. That's really a comprehensive question. I think that it is not, number one, not getting so arrogant that we think that because we woke up fully, and that now we're impenetrable to not only influence but slow breakdown. I do energy work, as many of you do, and I see auric fields in energy. Our permeability is only as strong as our focus and our intention is in the moment. And so practicing waking every single day with a clear objective of wholeness and integration, which is going to take on several different applications depending on what your preference in tools are. But my preference in tools is to, of course, as we all know, go into the gratitude mode in the morning and start with the 3 things that we're grateful for and the integration of wholeness from the get-go. And I do a shielding technique. It's on my website. I don't submit that that's going to be the technique for everyone, but I do a particular technique that I give kudos to Donna Eden for. And it's simply to let go of everything that we've been extinguishing while we were sleeping, because all of us are off-gassing. We're all letting go of the chaos of the day before. And we want to start fresh every single day. So she has incorporated, and I work with in my practice, dedicating, clearing, and reshielding. And I've met many shamans that would say we don't need to shield. And I think that we're at a point where today we know more now than ever, we actually really do, because the shielding is not out of fear. It is actually a daily practice of claiming our sovereignty. It's so many ways with which our sovereignty has been subverted in how we deal with the apps on our phone, how we sign away various things in documentation that are regularly compelled of us with the institutions for which we are a part. And when we claim our sovereignty every single day, we start to inch that energy back towards ourselves. So that creates a stabilization of the integration. And then holding that, I think, just coming full circle with your question, Jed, how do we move forward with that? It becomes an example, and it becomes an embodiment where it's felt by everyone around us that there is a greater wholeness and a peaceableness to us. And after that, it's less us versus them. It's really a sense of incorporation of, I am a sovereign being maintaining my sovereign being, and I only choose to participate in, not be angered by, not be triggered by, laugh at these little nuances where things appear to be wonky, and ask everyone else to step into that peaceableness. We're at the top of the aerial view looking down rather than running around in the labyrinth, complaining about what's wrong and trying to draw everyone's attention to it.
Right. One of the audience members, Tatiana, had some comments to some of your notes there. Adrian, if you can unmute your microphone, you had some questions for Tatiana, right?
Yeah. Hello, Tatiana. I'm also an MD. I suppose you're also an MD.
I'm not a medical doctor, Adrian. I'm a doctor of philosophy, particularly ancient philosophy, but we can talk whatever you would like to.
Yeah, lovely, lovely. This was one of the questions I was going to talk today about, what you have already talked about, and I just really love what you have said.
Thank you.
And I believe what you said, that once we don't take part in the show or in the matrix, so to speak, we are automatically on a higher level. So what I used to do without shielding, just blessing, actively blessing everyone. He has the opportunity to have another opinion, and I just bless him as part of a God. And what I used to do rather than shielding is using the violet flame of Saint Germain. And that's it. And that's such a basic routine. And what I feel, and I have also some groups, and I also teach this to my students. And I really insist them to try and feel the difference and be happy with that, because Saint Germain gave us such a great, a gorgeous tool by this violet flame. So without doing shielding, because okay, when you do shielding, you propose that you have to deal with something which needs to be shielded off, okay? And this is not what I want to pull to my reality. So last time I couldn't join the group, and 2 times I was on show, and both of the times I was interrupted by the internet, and I felt these negative energies. But once you don't click to them, or you don't let them touch you, they won't be able to catch you at all. So with rather than opposing anybody, I just bless and let them go. And it can be a person, it can be a situation, it can be a very angry person, and I just bless him and let him go. And you know, it works like miracle.
I appreciate everything you just said, Adrian, and I agree with you. I think that we have so many in a gradient of growth in this group that we're needing to be compassionately understanding of, that some are just starting still with the idea of trying to get their health right, because they don't even recognize how many emotional layers are feeding into, as well as karmic beliefs and familial beliefs that they're wearing in their physical body. Sometimes just going in an energetic closet and creating some shielding just to be reflective is a very important start for many. And as we evolve and as we grow through the awareness that it's really, we're sovereign beings. We get to create or not create, enable or not enable, participate or choose not to participate. I do think that it becomes much easier. And I think that violet flame and that beautiful auric energy just stabilizes in our space, almost to the point of a yogi. You know, we hold this beautiful energy where we're not triggered anymore. I would love to tell you I am no longer triggerable, and I am a mother of 5 and a grandmother to 2 and a practitioner to many, and it isn't true yet. So it is just a practice that I come back and I'm humble enough to know today's a good shielding day. I'm going in my closet. I'll come back out when I'm a little bit brighter and cleaner. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yes, yes. I really, really appreciate, and I hope that this glowy, shiny closet will come to all of us tonight. Okay,
Me too. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure chatting with you, Adrian.
Okay.
Thank you for reaching out, Adrian. And I agree that, you know, we each have our own individual techniques, Tatiana. And what's key to note is that our intuition rather is really what's going to be the signaling tool on what we choose as an approach or methodology to be enabled or empowered. And I think our inner self is, you know, constantly one of the misheard or misguided or even misinterpreted voices that we will hear. And I think a lot of that has to do with perspectives, and those perspectives would create filters to actually hearing it clearly. Now, I see it as a twofold approach, and maybe you can comment on this or not, that when we remove our perspectives or beliefs, we can hear things more clearly. But at the same time, if we remove too many, too fast, we might feel, how would you say that?
Unhinged.
Unhinged, exactly. That's the word. That's the exact word I was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you comment on that?
Well, we all need a foundation and a construct. And I think that, again, many that are wiser than I will talk about that's why we, in this 3D reality, were given the illusion of space-time and foundations that our families have provided, and maybe philosophical beliefs or religions or a sense of community and belonging. And as we, as seekers and as sovereign souls, are experiencing deeper aspects of that, we do have to shed beliefs and projections that have been placed upon us, societal expectations that really were never part of our divine blueprint coming here. But we have to do it carefully, or we can fall into a dark night of the soul prematurely. And I believe that the work, Dane and Jed, that you're doing here in trying to create a beautiful synchronicity of coordinators and leaders is to have each of us support each other navigating through these moments of uncertainty and usurpation in our own little mini dark nights of the soul, so that we can actually be as founded and anchored in that, to be able to help others when there is confusion, when there has been the level of disclosure. But I don't think we should jump too quickly to assume we have all the pieces now. I do this work every day, as I know many of you do, but there's no room for arrogance in it. It's a humbling experience of what layer am I letting go of now, and can I afford to let go of all of it without feeling like I'm going to become unhinged as well. So that's why I'm talking about find your tools. And be in community every day. Your spouse may not want to join you in this. Your children may think that, you know, you're a whack job. Luckily, I'm blessed I don't have that experience, but I do know that that has been hard won. We really need to be in a space where we're getting supported and we are taking our time in that transition. So Jed, I'm with you on that. Let's keep working together to fortify one another so that we really will be a resilient team. And not crumble like Dane was talking about earlier. Some people have gone, you know, off on a chart that appears to be taking others down with them, like they can't maintain the energy. And so our personal work is very important.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a matter of having yourself geared every day at the start of the day, like you mentioned earlier, understanding your tools to navigate, and then connecting with your inner self for that, you know, that level of emotional intelligence kind of guidance. Now, I'm an IT guy, and I like things in structure. I like things in different types of shapes that make sense, that fit in a technology fashion, but that's not going to work in everything. And so I understand that there are energies that flow and they don't. So what I try to do to balance myself is exactly what you said, was try to find tools that help on a daily basis that will adjust my responses or my ability to respond in those situations. And I think that's key, because you know, you have to have a lot of tools, because if you only have one tool in the bucket, so to speak, and you keep pulling it out in certain situations, you might find yourself a little lost. But or you might, you know, say this is a worthless tool, throw the bucket and kick it and bring everyone down with you, so to speak. And I think that's important, because as light workers, informing community and informing the link, I don't know what shape this is going to take, and maybe you know, Dane, if you can help me a little bit here and comment in. But, you know, the shape of where Prepare for Change as a global community and how they serve inwardly to each other and also outwardly to their geographic location, and how that forms a structure. Because Tatiana, Dana and I were talking about this structure, and when you want to be at the top, when you want to be recognized as up there, it gives you a platform to have a pedestal, to have an ego, right, Dane?
Yeah.
And face that.
You have to work on that all the time.
Yeah. So what do you think are, based on what Tatiana said, are practices that we cut out?
You're going. My internet.
Hello?
Bad. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
you back?
Yeah, I'm back. Yeah.
My question for you was if you can comment on what Tatiana was saying on how her basically the tools, the structure of her path to I would say self-discipline is too containerized, but the points that she made was very significant in avoiding situations where we spiral downwards and bring people with us. And I want you to talk about your reflection on that, because it's important.
I think it's extremely timely. I've been experiencing this myself this week. We have a lot of, there have been issues in which people have not wanted to acknowledge others, and this led them into a kind of almost a negative spiral. And it's hard to not get caught with them when you're the focus of their negativity. I think the most important thing is to be real, is to try to keep your ego out of it, and not get defensive, and to allow the people around you to give you validation and feedback. This is, to me, the most one of the most important things is to put your ego in your pocket. Let other people tell you what they think and how they feel about how you're presenting yourself and how you're dealing with the world. And of course, it's important that they have the ideals that you admire. And these are the things that we can all use without thinking too much about a lot of.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to get philosophical. We can just realize that the higher frequencies consist of calmness and a higher frequency connection to God, and a greater calmness around us, because we have, in fact, begun to emanate a very calming frequency. And when we don't, we get feedback. I mean,
Not
there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Dane, you cut off again. So Tatiana, your closing thoughts for our group on actions that, again, just summarize what you think that we should be doing in PFC in our leadership forums when we meet and after we meet to achieve our overall strategic goals.
Well, I think that always keeping the ego in check can be best done when we come together as a collaborative, recognizing that there is no hierarchy, there might be structure. And I understand, Jed, of course, both in this context and in corporate America, why we need structure. Not everyone has the same zones of genius in being able to put together any particular endeavor or intention. But when we come together, we need to recognize, and I would like to continue to support in this particular platform, the time taken not only in invocation, but in group meditation, that whether it's guided or it's set up in such a way that there is an imbuement of sound frequency. We know that this is a universe of resonance and vibration. We really need to be working with that tool. In my opinion, that's where my growth is pulling me, is let's get out of our density and let's get out of our intellect and let's really go into the vibratory frequency that is the essential co-creative force of the universe and everything within the multiverses, and hold a aligned vision of what it is we really want. I don't want to be a leader of this group and that's my end goal. I don't want to be someone who does this for weeks and months on end because I love the community. All of these things can play in, but really what do we want here? And all of my meditations guided and the breakthroughs with the divine say, only envision what it is that the end goal is for you and really get clear on what that golden new cosmic universe looks like and the merging of humanity. And I think that it would probably be true for most of us that we spend less time in our day-to-day efforts envisioning and embodying and aligning with that so that we resonate that into being, and maybe more chasing aspects of education and intellect and what I know and how many red pills did I take today. And I'm guilty of all of those things too, but it is coming down to let's really co-create this future that looks like the aftermath of the solar flash, that looks like the full integration of our ascension. And I would love to do that with all of you because I think that really is our highest goal and why we're here.
Right, right. Thank you. You know, just to summarize what Tatiana is saying, again, everyone, we hold a vision together and we embrace that vision by serving outwardly, service to others. We those of you who've read the material of Ra, that's a great, the Law of One is a great place to start looking at what the definition of service to self versus service to others means. And ultimately what it depicts is what a lot of you are saying in the chat room is there's no leadership, there's no ego. It has a structure. You know, we're basically in the PFC Leadership Forum because we're here to organize our structure for those who are preparing for the event. And it is very important that as you know, we move along, that we don't get caught up in the minutia. And I say there's a lot of this that happens where we want to of what we think is important of those events, those tiny events and those micro news events of signs and indications of when is the event going to happen. Prepare for Change is really about you tapping into your inner self and being guided and holding that vision that when the changes come, that you're going to progress it forward together as a group. And that's why ultimately why Dane and I and people like Tatiana and everyone else get together to have these calls, is to kind of have a leadership forum where we can talk about what do we need to do to progress ourselves so that when the event happens, we're not caught off guard or unhinged, as Tatiana put it earlier, right? Because a lot will become unhinged, and it's very important that you do not become unhinged in the process as well, right?
Exactly.
And yep, there's a lot of philosophy behind that. There's a lot of reaching out we can do to that. But the journey really starts from within. And I think that's really the main importance in preparing for change, is that strategically, yes, we have objectives as a group, but inwardly we have to be guided to our development towards the shifting of energies, or the shift of the paradigm, or the shift of the ages. So thank you, Tatiana. I'm going to move to our next part of the discussion with Angelo.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for giving us the those tools. And I recommend that anybody who's very interested in to reach out to Tatiana. Dr. Irvin has some really great material. Look at her books. If you're on her side of, you're in the East Coast, right, Tatiana?
I am. I'm in North Carolina. Exactly.
North Carolina. I thought it was in New York. I'm so sorry. I got my states mixed up. Yeah, if you're over on that side and Eastern Standard Time, out, find out if you can connect with her and her community. If you're interested in what she's doing to get out of the minutia and work towards change, I think it's a great example of what she's doing and what the symbolic actions of our daily lives should be, progressing towards and preparing for change. So thank you again.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Yep. So our next part, Dane, if it's okay with you, we've been getting a lot of things on the coming of the event. And, I believe Angelo had some topics he wanted to talk about on the awareness. I really wanted to talk about it from a technological standpoint with Angelo. So for those of you who have just joined, we're having just a general discussion today. And if you're not speaking, if you can kindly put your microphone back on mute. So I'm going to give the floor over to Angelo. Is that you, Angelo?
Yes, it's me. I'm here. Can you hear
Finally,
me
I
well?
get to see your video. So, Angelo, I think a lot of people are concerned about, in our chat groups and our leadership forum, about the event. And I think there's a lot of things that are happening outwardly in 3D. And as a technologist, I know that you are one. You mentioned that there's a little bit of structure needed from standpoint in humanity and how we organize. And I wanted to talk to you about a couple of things. If you can just run it over about what you do in your side of the planet and how you've utilized your skills beyond to the point where it's fruitful for discussion today. So I'll give it over to you, Angelo, and I hope you can keep it into that context.
I'll try to, Jet, and thank you so much for this opportunity. Tatiana, I resonated with a lot what you said. Thank you very much. Adriana as well. Thank you very much. I think what I'm going to say is going to resonate with what you said as well. In terms of being a technologist like you, Jet, when I was younger, I was exposed. I was all gung-ho with technology and so forth. But I was always connected to my higher self, although I wasn't aware or knowledgeable about what it was, what it is, what it can do, and all of that. Today I am. I didn't apply that much. I was more reserved, quiet, introverted, and so forth. But over time, as the knowledge, the awareness, and the information came to me, I became more extroverted and connect with other people as well. And what I found, Jet, you can relate in a sense that in technology, when you're working in the software development, creating devices like the new telephones and so forth, you have the programmers, most of them are introverted and they are not necessarily human oriented. But I happen to be also connect with people and also be able to address the business side of an organization. And most of the time, I find myself in between the technologists and the business people, and translating back and forth. So, in a sense, today, as Tatiana mentioned, your tool set, my tool set is, one of them is actually meditation. I'm a martial artist as well since very young. So I've been able to incorporate that into the totality of what I am today. And one aspect about 2004 maybe, coming up, I've been fortunate to meet somebody. His name is Victor Pinedo. He's a consultant. He's a Dutch Caribbean. He's from Curaçao, but he lives and works from the US, all over the world. And he has exposed me to some things that totally actually gave me the bag of tricks or the bag of tools to really expose or really expand my ability in the organizational, organic way. And let me explain.
Okay.
From a technologist standpoint, you're very rigid, as you mentioned, very structured. But from a organic or human connection, you need to be more flexible. I usually give the metaphor as being our human body is built out of bones, which are structured and hard and fixed in a sense, and our muscles are more flexible. So that combination is necessary in any situation you go into. As a martial artist, I can tell you that I've been in life and death situations where if you are too rigid in, for instance, falling to the ground, your body will break. You will hurt yourself. So I've been in an accident where I wasn't too rigid, and I've been able to fly as fast as possible out of my seat and grab my mom so that she wouldn't fly off the windshield. And in that moment, it's incredible because I just came from the U.S. I used to study in the U.S. Came from the U.S. and my thought was, I'm not going into the hospital at this time. So I took action. There was a rush. There was no time for even fear. So, and I learned from that experience, and I used it in every other situation I am in. Mm-hmm. One of the things that Tatiana mentioned also, and I would like to add, is a tool that Stephen Covey mentioned a lot, is the space between stimulus and response. The greater that space in between stimulus and response, the better you can respond. And the trick is to be able to stay in that moment. That's what I did when I had that accident. And in that moment, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, because I wanted you to speak to the audience about this. I knew there was something that you were going to say that was important. I just felt called to ask you if you wanted to speak, and because when you mentioned this, the human body is a piece of technology in itself.
Yes, very sophisticated.
And it's relevant to us in our leadership forum, because how we do these actions, we can be caught up. And like I was mentioning in the minutia earlier, that's overstimuli, right? And that leads to a lot of negative things, of anxiety, a lot of negative things like depression maybe. And you don't have any more control over it. And then you're just going to be automatically programmed to do what you do in those negative energies.
Yes.
So, and I'm a technologist like you, and I think it's important, because Dane's also one, he comes from a technology background, to give a contrast to, not just a contrast, but maybe, because both you and Tatiana are on the same coherent point. They're just, it's very contrasted in a sense from divine feminine, divine masculine. I think that's very interesting. But the second point I want to make is that your analogy for this is that people who are not always intuitive or always active can be light workers. They can respond and act when in situations that they're not necessarily comfortable in being in, right?
We always will be put in that position, as Tatiana also mentioned. It's up to you to recognize that moment, and that's what light workers, I like to call myself also as a light warrior, tend to need to learn to, when you find yourself in a situation like that, to take a moment, even though it's a death and life situation. Believe me, we are able to function at a much higher rate than we believe. You need to step back together at the same time. But if you take that step into that higher state and look at them and observe, you will notice they coming right maybe a millisecond or two or three after each other, and then you can respond to them in accordingly. That's my experience several times. As a martial artist, you practice in different situations, but transitioning that to, for instance, in organizational situations, I like to use another example where I learned a methodology. They would call it, it's one of the 72 I learned. It's open space, called open space technology. And it's what they call a large scale intervention methodology. Open space has been created by Harrison, I forgot his last name at this time, but it was a very spontaneous creation. It's a way of meeting which, instead of having a structured meeting agenda, you would go in with a question, a well-written, well-devised question, and let the participants create the agenda. It has its whole process that you go through to get to that point. But it's been very effective in many things I have done. And what I see in that methodology is that although it doesn't have a structure, the structure will rise out of the participants instead of you, the leader or supposedly leader or facilitator in a meeting. And that's what I recognize in you too. You have the ability to see and ask those right questions. Now, one of the things combining those two, what is important is the ability to listen, the ability to step away and listen and recognize, and then ask the right question. The questions will lead. The question will create a vacuum. If I talk in quantum physics or metaphysical terms, it will create a vacuum, and it is the ability of the facilitator being humble, letting the ego at the door is another way of saying it, and allow the participants to respond to that question. You will be amazed.
It's amazing that you mentioned open space technology, because that's kind of it reflects the form of what we have. And for those of us who are not familiar with open space technology, it's a self-organizing, purpose-driven leadership approach. One can be including a way to host meetings. And it's funny that Angelo mentions this, because that's kind of the vision that I have and that Dana and I have, that we want to have for our Leadership Forum conferences, where you drive the agendas, where the members of this forum drive the agenda. So we try to gather everyone's feedback and give it some ideas and listen to you first. And one thing I like about the open space technology is there's this law, it's called the law of 2 feet. And Harrison Owen is his last name.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. He says the law of 2 feet, there's a saying, if at any time during our time together, you find yourself in any situation where you are neither learning nor contributing, use your 2 feet. And is the best part, go someplace else. Now, it doesn't mean go away. It means to go in the direction that's going to be best for you. I think this is a very interesting part where those explanations of the law of 2 feet comes, where whoever comes is the right people. Whenever it starts, it's the right time. Wherever it is, it's the right place. Whatever happens is only the thing that could have happened. Be prepared to be surprised. And when it's over, it's over. So yeah, exactly. So I think those 3 things that you mentioned, where you recognize, and then I forgot the second, and then you asked the question, are what's to the key to our organization is, we're becoming aware, we're becoming awakened as light workers. We see how bad the situation is. And what was the second point, Angelo?
Actually, I'll say it this way. There's one thing that is very important, which is not always mentioned in those 4, let's say, guiding rules that you mentioned about the open space. Is you mentioned take your 2 feet. You have 2 feet. 1 feet is responsibility, and the other one is your caring. You take your responsibility. It's your responsibility to take care of yourself. It's your responsibility to step up and walk away. But you can choose again and again, use the space between your response and stimulus. You can choose to where you're going. You can also choose to go home. And that's how it organically, yes,
yeah,
you can. It's your choice.
Yeah, there's so many directions you can take it in.
Yes, and that's the mechanism. That's the only those are the only set of rules that are governing the open space, and it works marvelously. And
I like that open space technology. It connects to the humanity of who we are. And I suggest that, if you haven't heard about it, just Google it, open space technology, and look up Harrison Owen. It's a great tool, and technologists like myself and Angelo use that as a way to adapt from our personality, our inborn personality traits, where most of us who are techie and nerdy, they conform to a stereotype where we're very introverted and we don't know how to deal with people. And I think, yeah, you're smiling. I can see you smile, Angelo, because it's important that when you become aware and then you begin to recognize the landscape and preparing for change, you tend to, like I mentioned earlier, 1 or 2 things can happen. You become unhinged, or you can, like what Angelo said, respond so that you don't fall to the ground very rigidly. You actually take action, right, Angelo? And that's key to this.
There's an important aspect that I suggested also to the leadership, is that yes, calm, but not the calm. It's a different calm from being letting go or giving up. It's an intentional calm. It's an aware and active calm. So you are constantly listening and being aware of your environment. And I can relate this back to my background is in computer science and artificial intelligence. Although I don't pursue artificial intelligence, I use the knowledge. There's such a thing called the complex adaptive systems. It's a pattern that you can, if you look it up, you can actually, if you understand what it is, you can see it in every, in your environment, in your body, in the cells and so forth, how the cells behave. And if you look further, you will realize that everything in the universe works that way, and that there is no actual boundaries. The only boundaries actually is an emergent boundaries. It's an emergent from the behaviors of the group. For instance, we as a group are agents within a system, and because we are of the same way, of the same notion, we think of the same thing, we have the same goal, we have the same aspirations, we are behaving in a certain structure. And that structure, without us knowing or realizing sometime, will have an emergent behavior. Somebody outside of our group will notice that. And that's something that happens at all levels. So in a sense, our body is an emergent aspect of others at the low level, such as our cells, our quantum particles, and so forth and up. So when you look at things like that, you see that there is no difference between anybody, any one of us. There's no separation from anybody. There is no borders. There is no lines. There's no hard lines. So we are all one in a sense, and it reverts back to the law of one. That we are all one, and we all affect each other. And what I wanted to get to is that, based on that, the best thing then is to stay calm, intentionally, stay aware, stay within between the space of response and stimulus, until you are so inclined to respond. You will feel that inclination to respond, and you will respond appropriately or in the best way. And you just need to trust on that.
Yeah, the best way to respond, you know, you have to have these set of guiding principles. You have to have your tool set, your toolkit, basically, and you know, whether you develop it intuitively or you take the time and discipline and effort to build your own tools. I think that's the quintessential thing of having an ability to respond. And not many people know that they can actually go away or they can actually respond to the situations that they're in because they're too worried about the situation.
The situation, yes, yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's a counterintuitive behavior. It's a counterintuitive. So the intuition is to respond to what is coming to you right away, but the counterintuitive is to just in that moment to stay calm and look at it and observe. It's not easy. I know it's not easy.
Yeah, and I think that's the hard part of our situation in Prepare for Changes. Again, I'll mention it to everybody in the group, is we look at the situation and we feel that, you know, we're in it so deep because yes, we've awakened and we can see the whole landscape and we've been seeing it for so long. But what do we actually do? Do we wake up others, or do we just keep posting about the situation? What's the situation? You know, is the compression breakthrough going to happen today, tomorrow? I think there's other things that we can do and respond to. And, you know, from our human standpoint, we have an inner technology. This technology is best described as being open, right, Angelo? It's
yes, it's best described as being open.
Yes.
Something I wanted to add is that what do we do as a light warrior, as a light worker that's aware, that's conscious about what's happening. As I mentioned in an earlier session, I've been preparing for being able to provide the information in terms of we are all inclined, we're very eager to help others, and that's in our nature. In particular, if you are a service to self person, and I'll share another anecdote. No, it's an example. I don't know if you heard of this example, but you can draw a circle around on paper and divide it by two, somewhat equal size, and call one side service to self and call the other side service to others. Now, imagine if you or anybody would be going through their life, and you go through your life, you go by a bit service to self, then you go to service to others, then you go service to self, service to others. That's how you circle around in that circle. According to law of one, the people that are 65% service to others, it will take them less time to get to heaven. Those that are service to self, listen to this, it will take them 95% of their time to get to heaven.
Wow.
They still, hold on, they still do go to heaven. Okay, they still go to heaven, but it takes them 95% of their time in their lifetime, or any several lifetimes, to go to heaven.
Yeah, that's the joy of the karmic circle in that aspect. I like how you put it that way, because it's a multitude or a myriad of stuff that you have to cut through if you desire to be in the side of more of service to self. And not only do you have to go through a lot of painstaking, I think Buddha presents it nicely when he says desire produces suffering. That's just a one way to put it, but it's not necessarily we shouldn't have desires. I think the point being is that it can produce an inorganic form in our lives when we take too many actions that are not in the service to others category. And then we have too many more that outweigh it in the service to self. Would you agree with that, Angelo?
I would say this. It is the unaware and unintentional actions that cause hurt or cause pain or cause damage. Remember, us as light warriors, light workers, are told continuously to take care of ourselves as well, because otherwise we won't be able to take care of others. So in a sense, to me, that says that you need to have a certain degree of service to self to be able to be service to others. And me thinking it through, I actually do projects that are taking care of myself and others at a bigger scale. So I'm very much into sustainability. So if I do something for myself, it will work for others as well in many folds. For instance, that's how I implemented that. That's one of my tools, for instance. But to some degree, we have to take care of ourselves and be in the position to be able to help others. Otherwise, we are hurting ourselves and we are hurting others as well.
That's I think the greater good for all can be damaging if you're not focusing on the good for yourself. That's exactly right. So it has to be also that has to be incorporated in service to others. And when you serve others, you should consider, how does it impact you? Is it going to be one of those things that you get sucked into it? And I know as light workers, we have that tendency where we want to help, but is it going to be a cause that makes impact, or is it going to be a cause that's going to be fruitless, basically, or harmful, even worse? So we have to foresee, or I guess understand our plans and of our actions. And it's like a technology that we will get dynamic feedback from the universe, and how we approach whether or not it's really for service to others or for service to self.
That's right. And that's where you need to be open. I see here Vladimir is saying eliminating own ego is 100%
to others. And when you serve others, you should consider, how does it impact you? Is it going to be one of those things that you get sucked into it? And I know as light workers, we have that tendency where we want to help, but is it going to be a cause that makes impact, or is it going to be a cause that's going to be fruitless, basically, or harmful, even worse? So we have to foresee, or I guess understand our plans and of our actions. And it's like a technology that we will get dynamic feedback from the universe, and how we approach whether or not it's really for service to others or for service to self.
That's right. And that's where you need to be open. I see here Vladimir is saying eliminating own ego is 100% service to others. So working on ourselves is also working on actually service to others. And I see that Tatiana says, yes, the disassociation of our connection within that creates this illusion of separateness. When we are fully integrated, whole, conscious, it sets the field empowering others.
That's right. That is definitely, that nails it on the head. That's the technology.
Yes.
And I think that landscape is one we tend to ignore, or we tend to miss. And that empowerment becomes, something that we're not always able to reach for. Now,
I had to conceptualize and implement this myself, largely because the situation
to others. And when you serve others, you should consider, how does it impact you? Is it going to be, one of those things that you get sucked into it? And I know as light workers, we have that tendency where we want to help, but is it going to be a cause that makes impact, or is it going to be a cause that's going to be, fruitless, basically, or harmful, even worse? So we have to foresee, or I guess understand our plans and of our actions. And it's like a technology that we will get dynamic feedback from the universe, and how we approach whether or not it's really for service to others or for service to self.
That's right, and that's where you need to be open. I see here Vladimir is saying eliminating own ego is 100% service to others. So working on ourselves is also working on actually service to others. And I see that Tatiana says, yes, the disassociation of our connection within that creates this illusion of separateness. When we are fully integrated, whole, conscious, it sets the field empowering others.
That's right. That is definitely, that nails it on the head. That's the technology.
Yes.
And I think that that landscape is one we tend to ignore or we tend to miss. And that empowerment becomes, something that we're not always able to reach. That the illusion of our separateness creates that disconnect. But when we fully integrate, our conscious and ourself, it begins to empower others. So
we constantly need to work on ourselves to be prepared to be able to help others that need that guidance, and they will seek out that guidance.
That the illusion of our separateness creates that disconnect. But when we fully integrate, our conscious and ourself, it begins to empower others. So I want your take, Dane, on how that applies to the PFC Leadership Forum.
Like you.
Can you hear?
Need that guidance, and they will seek out that guidance and service to others. So working on ourselves is also working on actually service to others. And I see that Tatiana says, yes, the disassociation of our connection within that creates this illusion of separateness. When we are fully integrated, whole, conscious, it sets the field empowering others.
That's right. That is definitely, that nails it on the head. That's the technology.
Yes.
And I think that landscape is one we tend to ignore or we tend to miss. And that empowerment becomes, something that we're not always able to reach for. Now, there's
the fact that other people have agendas, and this requires something of a, you try.
I was saying earlier is that the illusion of our separateness creates that disconnect. But when we fully integrate, our conscious and ourself, it begins to empower others. So I want your take, Dane, on so much, Angelo. We talked, Dane mentioned, these great points on how we want to use our own inner judgment so that whether we recognize what we still recognize others in our development for ourselves. And the tools that we have are necessary for, these actions. And the next person that I want to call to this discussion is Alan, because what he's doing is he's gone beyond, reaching into the community and talking to the mayor of his town.
And they will seek out that guidance. And remember to take care of yourself by at least take 5 minutes to meditate. If you don't have those 5 minutes, you need an hour to meditate.
Good.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you so much, Angelo. The next person that I want to call to this discussion is Alan, because what he's doing is he's gone beyond, reaching into the community and talking to the mayor of his town, as well as the police chief, to discuss about the topics for preparing for change. So it's really interesting how, the conversation is flowing today, because we talked about with Tatiana, for those of you who missed and are just joining, the inner emotional intelligence and the intuition that you need to have, and the tools that you need to have. And then Angela built upon, the discipline that you need to have and do with those tools. And so I want to kind of showcase Alan's work because it's important, because that's really what we're aiming for strategically in Prepare for Change. So Alan, are you there? Could you unmute?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I see that Shweta requested to speak, so I'd like to offer Shweta the first speaking here, if I can.
Okay. Yeah, I just saw that now. So Shweta, are you there?
Shweta,
You
go
can
ahead.
mute.
Yes. Hello. Hello,
Go
Jed.
ahead and mute your microphone, Alan.
Hello, Jed. Can you hear me? Hello,
Yeah,
Jed.
I can hear you.
Okay, okay. And salam, namaste, Jed.
Salam.
Namaste, Tatiana. Namaste.
What are
Namaste,
you sharing
Angelo.
with us? Yeah.
I was just listening all those beautiful words, you know,
Mhm.
and I want to share the love from inside me coming out to you, everybody. And I have experienced the same thing as you light workers are experiencing, and still experiencing the same thing. And we are on the same path, and this is so enlightening, you know. And as Tatiana said, we are like yogis, you know. We have become yogis of knowledge, with the knowledge of uh, everything we wanted to know, we know from inside, you know, and that was suppressed from years, eons. Now we came out as the soul we are from thousands of years of love, beauty, grace, abundance, and all. Like what I can say, yeah, like God and goddesses, love, and everyone. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Shweta. You know, it's amazing you mentioned that karmic cycle.
Yeah.
Eventually, we'll
Karma,
evolve.
you know, Jet,
Yeah.
karma is something we can avoid, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Karma, we can explain in scientific language, is time-space continuum. And
Wow.
that is to be avoided. We always think the linear, and the science has given us that. Think
Mm-hmm.
linear, always linear. We haven't thought about the vertical thing, you know. We have to go
Mm-hmm.
up vertical, and the time-space continuum is the chakra we are always in. We are giving, we are getting again birth with some different body, and this is so bad, you know. We have to just, Dr. Tatiana said, we have to let go. We have to let go of the past. We don't want to remember. We just want to remember the love we have suppressed, and the love is, and the love will be. That is the
Wow.
thing, and that is not time space continuum. That
You know,
is not.
you mentioned that because my quantum beta quantum healer or quantum theta healer, I don't know which one it is. She mentions to me that we can use our inner chakra to access the time space continuum, to go back in the past or our past lives, or to go into the future and heal the areas that need healing with exactly what you said, with the love
Yeah.
that is, and the love that will be. That is very amazing for you to bring that. Thank you for that. Is just
Yeah.
so
Jade,
important.
when we look all the pain on the suffering, we again
Mm-hmm.
pull ourselves inside all those mayhem, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to manifest the totality, the beauty of the peace and love now
Mm-hmm.
in the Nova, as Sri Saint Germain said in his Violet Flame. And you can also hear and see the DNA, 24 DNA strand healing. The Saint Germain said to a gift from him to all humanity, and I'm doing that to get out of this time-space continuum, as Sir Isaac Newton gave us, and the chakra, the wheels, and everything. We are going vertical now into the heavens, in the quantum fields, and that is all we are doing. Yes, we are. Thank you, everybody, all loving souls. Thank you, Adrian. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Dr. Tatiana, for your advice of the wholeness. You know, can I talk a little more?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Oh, yes. You know, Jed, I have mentioned about the wing makers. Um, and, have I mentioned the wing makers?
The
They are
wing maker.
musicians. Yeah, they are the central race, the future beings. And they told us about the, if you are not capable of doing long meditations and long meditations and even meditations, you know, you can just have a quantum pause, like breathing in the sovereign integral, and breathing out as we are in the sovereign integral. And you can do it anywhere, you know. And this is the time, this is the overwhelming time. This is the time, the timeless of every time, you know.
I can see a lot
Time.
of people's heads nodding. That is so amazingly true. I completely agree with that.
Quantum pause joins us, connect us with the quantum energies, you know.
Mm-hmm.
We have this ability to do. I am trying to do, and a little I have done, and I have experienced the feeling, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
I will say, in your free will, lovely people, you can do that. And I
I
also tell people, they'll listen or not. I will tell them, he do this and do that. Maybe they neglect, maybe they thought me someone else, and but I do this.
you
Thank
know,
you, thank you.
I think you should
Namaste.
thank you. Namaste. Namaste. I think Sweta, if you can, you should reach out to group members and help them with healing with the quantum pause. That is an amazing technique.
Yes, yes.
I've done that. I didn't know it was from the Wingmaker, so thank you for bringing that up. So for those of you who'd like to experience the healing from the quantum pause, it's a great tool. Angelo talked about that. It's the space between you get the stimulus to your reaction. You can actually find that quantum pause, it's amazing when you're able to get in that space. So thank you again, Shveta. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Alan, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me okay? Okay.
Hey, I think you got like a fan on your microphone there, Alan.
What?
Is there wind blowing on your microphone by any chance?
No.
Okay.
I'm inside of a room with no windows closed, no wind.
Okay.
Okay. So so let me say that really what we should all be focusing on, according to the Blue Avians, specifically raw tier air, what we should all be focusing on right now is getting ourselves to the event by becoming more loving, more forgiving, and more in service to others, and to meditate daily. These are the most important things we need to do to get to the event. Now, once the event happens, I've been planning for what I will do after the event, not knowing exactly what's going to happen in what order and so forth. So PFC put out a 5-page community leaders brief, I think it's called, and it's really, I found it really helpful. I have communicated with the chief of police here in Sebastopol and the mayor of Sebastopol, and over the past 20 years, I have built up a relationship with them such that when I broached the subject of the event taking place, they were receptive to me. So what I began doing 21 years ago when I moved here was to start going to city council meetings where the chief of police was also there and speaking on various issues. Being a military veteran, I would offer them some military perspective on various issues, like the weaponization. Now they understand, where they didn't before, the potential for weaponization of all these various cell towers and cell phones and street lights. They can be weaponized to kill people. People don't understand this, but now the city council is beginning to understand this. In addition, I would go to various meetings and speak to them about various other issues during these 20 years, including marching with my Vietnam veteran buddies and nurses, and so they would see me marching, with all our medals, and 10 or 20 of us marching down the street. We're members of Veterans for Peace, and even though we're Veterans for Peace, I would be carrying my Lee Harvey Oswald rifle. It's called the Mannlicher Carcano, to show people how impossible it is to get off 3 shots within 5.6 seconds. People, the chief of police was very interested in learning more about the rifle that I was marching with. And so we developed a relationship over time. And so, so a couple of years ago, it was about a year or so ago, I went to a Memorial Day service in the local cemetery right across from where I live, where all the veterans usually go, and we have a little ceremony honoring the dead. And the chief of police and 2 or 3 of his officers who are also veterans would attend, and we would talk. And I was talking last Memorial Day to the chief of police and the mayor, just the 3 of us, and a couple of other police officers as well. And I started talking to them about the event. I didn't about a great change that was going to take place, in which the sun may be flashing for a number of times, and so but I didn't get into great details with them about it. But they were interested. They trusted me enough to invite me to a meeting to explain more. I said I have a 5-page document I would like to share with you to help people be calm at this event, because I can tell you that this is going to be so life-changing and so reality-changing that many people who are unaware are going to be freaking out and are not going to be able to handle and tolerate these changes that are coming down. And I want to help the police and the mayor keep calm in the city. And so I explained to them, I have this document that I want to share with you. And so we've agreed to set up a meeting. We have a meeting set up. As soon as the event happens, like the day after the event happens, they'd like to sit down with me and really go over what I can do to help them keep calm in the city. And so now it was easier for me maybe to communicate with the chief of police and the mayor, because I'm a military veteran, and they have a lot of respect for the military, especially the police. And so it was natural. I now realize that this is why I was becoming friends with these people. I didn't realize this before, but I now realize that this is why I normally wherever I've lived, I've known the chiefs, rather various chiefs of police, but I felt something special about being here and this chief and this mayor. So anyhow, I just wanted to relate this to you, that it's important that we communicate with our elected city officials and county officials and become friends with them, because they're going to need our help when the event happens, and they're not going to know where to turn, and we want to give them a safe place to turn and a place where they can communicate and get real information, because there's going to be a lot of misinformation flying around if the event happens too quickly here before enough people wait. So,
Alan,
yes.
If I may, I think I like the process and how you kind of waterfalled it. It starts with those things. You awaken, you meditate, you have your tools, and then you go out and get out there, right?
Yeah.
You be you,
Yeah.
and you will attract the people that you need to evangelize, or to share, or to give them this message, and you'll find that opportune moment to. And once you start having a dialogue to those who are not awakened or not aware or not doing any of this stuff, they'll be attracted to you, and they're going to want to listen, right? Exactly. And that's exactly the key to doing all of these PFC forums. Is we're hearing the different stages of development, and if we in practice go through it, we're going to have opportunities where we're going to be able to reach out And in your case, the universe brought you the mayor and the chief of police, and you're now going to be able to help them keep calm after the day after the event happens. Because they're going to look to you and say, "Oh my gosh, that guy was right." Now, it doesn't matter if you're in the military or if you were not, if you are marching with a gun. I don't suggest you all go doing that wherever you are in the world. Marching with a rifle in the street might get you some attention, but I don't know if it's going to be the right attention for you personally. But in this case, it was very interesting for you, Alan. I think that's really interesting. Dane, do you want to? Sorry, I'm going to switch it over to Dane real quick and back to you, Alan. Dane, do you want to comment on that?
I think he's got a good idea. Alan's been very dedicated in this. He enjoys the interaction with the veterans and the men in the community, the leaders, and this is a tremendous venue for him to share and do some good. Not everybody in the groups wants to do this, although by definition we've all volunteered for this. This is the role, basically, that we've engaged in the leadership role. It's not this version of leadership is the purpose is to share with leaders, to basically lead the leaders. We're advising the leaders. We need to connect with these people who have been given the role of leading our communities, so that they are able to have the best information and the best understanding of what's happening. Alan has been aligned with this since the beginning. He has really taken up the role with a lot of enthusiasm, and I think that it's the right role. It's the right approach. Like I said, not everybody is going to embrace doing this, and this is one of the things that we have to deal with. It's hard. It's hard to. I live in a city that has. Is fast growing. It has, I don't know, the Phoenix metro area has probably got 3 or 4 or 5 million now. I mean, I've lost track. And it's, the leaders, there's 13 municipalities. They all, you can hardly tell when you go to one to another. It's just all one big street system, pretty much uniformly lined with houses and businesses. Finding leadership in these situations many times in this fast-growing community. I meet people who, who have leadership positions who've only been here a few months. It's like, their connection to the community is more to a community, a diaspora of people from all over America and the world. And so the role of leadership is now so generalized, and it's more like almost like roles that people pick up sort of interchangeably, and they don't really connect to the idea of leading people. They have functions that they pursue, and fortunately for Alan, he lives in a community that is in fact like a community. He's got people there who have been there for a long time, who love their community and take responsibility for it. And these are the people you want to connect to. But everybody is busy. And the way that you connect to them is like Alan has said, you speak their language, you honor their interests. And in doing that, you're able to, they open up to you. And, I think this is very insightful from Alan. I want to thank him very much for sharing this with us.
We got a question. And either I'll let Dana or Alan answer this one. We have a question from the group chat from Karen. She wants to understand the difference between chiefs and leaders in a neighborhood or community. I think the context of the question is identification of who's who in their roles. I think police chief is who you were talking to, and the city mayor. Is that right? And as well as the city council, Alan?
Yes. On many occasions, yes.
Okay. So, and it was because of your background with the military that gave you a platform to have with them, and because you were active in your community, marching with military veterans. This is, of course, after you've been meditating, after you've been awakened, and all of this stuff that we've been talking about. And you were able to get them to listen to you. That opportunity, the universe presented you that opportunity.
Yes.
And
I want to say that you can probably sense my enthusiasm for the future for sure, because I am so excited about what is about to happen on Earth and throughout the universe. But my enthusiasm is it's contagious when you encounter somebody who is enthusiastic as I am. They're a little bit more willing to listen to you. They want to see what are you coming on? What have you been doing to be so? What do you know to be so excited and enthusiastic? And so, I tell people a little bit. You can't just lay it all out there, because people are generally not ready for this. But some people are, and so I am actively involved in various radiation issues, non-ionizing radiation issues mostly now. But I wanted to say to clear up what is the leader. A leader is anyone who assumes a leadership role or a leadership responsibility. I have assumed a leadership responsibility because of my knowledge and because of my desire to help. And so it doesn't matter that I'm not an elected official. I can still talk to them and communicate with them. And so that's kind of the difference. Elected official is an elected official. And so I don't know what else.
The influence, I guess. Yeah.
So that's probably enough for now. I don't know if you have any questions anymore. I'm happy to respond.
That was about it there.
Okay.
So I want to summarize again what you're saying is your influence as a light worker comes by the things that Tatiana and Angelo have talked about. Is you develop your connection to inner self, your inner guidance. You discipline it by creating tools or using them, the ones that are there for you to use. Go in the direction that you're supposed to go in those moments. And then you'll come to what Alan has are these aha, that's what that was for moments where you'll be able to actually help prepare for change. And that's, again, like Dane puts it, that's really, really our commitment to helping doing that. Whether we help internal to each other, to lift each other up, to gear for that, that's one way to do it. That's one way to serve this organization, or whether you're actively doing it at the front lines with a rifle like Alan is.
Never loaded.
Right?
Never loaded. I have
Whenever it was loaded, I'm just kidding. Yeah. So I see a lot of comments from the group chat. Angelo said that there's also situational leadership, which a person that Alan has said that the knowledge and experience in a moment, particularly when a situation arises. That is very interesting, because I think it was Beyonce said that the power isn't given, it's actually taken, or it can be assumed. So it's very, very, very.
Here's an award I won.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, for marching in the parade. Okay, we're first place, marching in the parade.
Wow.
Exhibit A.
A single bolt action rifle. This can't fire one shot every maybe 5 seconds, and with a scope on it, you can't really see that well. This is called the humane rifle because it never shot straight. This is one of the worst rifles ever from 400 yards or whatever. I'm sorry.
Can I talk, Jed?
Sure.
Hello, Jed.
Hi, I can hear you.
Hi. Hello.
I've seen it on Capoelli's website and
Yes.
a few other.
You can see the Goldfish Report 162, number 162, with Winston Strout and the Winston Strout, and he talks about the alien interview where he talks about an alien woman, a woman or is being. He told the woman told a nurse. He was captured. The alien woman is a pilot, she said, to a nurse, and she was captured by the military organization here in Himalayas, you know, the grid of the Arkans in the Himalayas. And she was, because of some issues, she was treated in the hospital, and she talked with a nurse. And she was talking in a pre-Sanskrit language, you know. And
okay.
Then the doctor, she named her the Matilda. She had written the book, The Alien Interview. Anyone can read it. She then prepared the woman who is the pilot of the spaceship, which was shut down by the Arkans or Kabals or whatever you can say. She learned, that woman, her name is Eril, and she learned English, you know. And then she talked to Matilda that she is an Isbi, and everybody is an Isbi. Every being is an Isbi, not the animals, but the Isbi. I am, and we are. I am present is the Isbi. As we always say that after every meditation or trance or quantum pause, we say, so be it, so it is. So we are all Isbis. Just we have to understand that the presence of the Isbi inside us. So the pilot says to the nurse that we are all Isbis, and we became Isbis long thousands of years ago, and you are realizing the Isbi inside you now. So if we do this, we are Isbis. Every prayer, every meditation, we end it with the so be it, so it is. That will be the Isbi, you know. So you can go to the Goldfish Report 162 with Dr. Winston Shroud, and everybody have the knowledge. And this is so beautiful. Thank you, Jed. Thank you.
Thank you. I see Alan's holding up something, a book. Lawrence Spencer. This is the Alien Interview. Is this what she's referring to?
Yes, this is a fantastic book.
Yes. Oh, Alan, thank you.
So,
thank
Alan,
I don't
summarize the synopsis real quick again.
Okay,
and
this woman, this nurse, this army nurse, was interviewed, one of the survivors of the 1947 shoot down. Roswell was a shoot down using high technology, scalar weaponry that is still top secret today and nobody's allowed to know about. They say it crashed. Yes, it crashed because it was shot down. So this woman interviewed the survivor, and she learned from one of these UFO survivors, and she shared her knowledge just before she died. And so this is a wonderful book. It's called Alien Interview, and the woman's name is Matilda O'Donnell McElroy, and she puts in a lot of documents. There's a lot of documentation here about her feelings, about what she learned from this. What
was the one thing that she learned? What's the key message she had?
Okay, peace, love. Love is what is needed on this earth. Non-violence, love, no more war. You know, be peaceful, and we will make connections quicker with our friends in high places.
Nice.
Okay.
So thank you so much, and absolutely to everyone. Tatiana, she's already gone from the room. Angelo, Alan, Shweta, I appreciate all of this. I'm gonna turn the floor over to Dane, and then we'll close with a prayer from Christina. So Dane, if you can give the group today your closing thoughts from the meeting and anything that is the need to do next, or our next action to do.
Yeah, we have so much to do in front of us. Our mission to supply information to the leadership is it's a great mission, and we are faced with a lot of issues that can be solved because we have a lot of information on the website. You can choose the parts you want to use, and you know, if you have other doubts or it doesn't quite resonate, you can grab some keywords and look around the internet. The community leaders briefs is a very powerful site for this situation when the event comes. It was designed to deal with the people who are leaders, but who have probably been somewhat in the dark because they are loyal to their jobs and they've been told by the people above them how to think, and they have because, you know, but they're going to be left confused. And our job is to inform them and give them a calm perspective on what's happening. We can confirm from our understanding what they need to know. I mean, for instance, Cobra talked about the mass arrest scenario many years ago. Now we're seeing it manifest, and you know, there are over 4,000 indictments, sealed indictments, and this is clear that this is a mass arrest scenario. This was predicted years ago, and nobody else was believing it, but we have organized around it, and we're prepared for it. This should give us credibility, you know, and the people in our group need to use current circumstances and then refer to what we've been working on and why it's valid, because we knew it was valid, because we could not see any other way to liberate the planet. This had to happen. It had to happen. You can't presume that you've got this runaway negativity or you know, satanic practice without removing it. And the only way to do it is what is going to happen. And it was predicted in 2012, or it was written about in 2012. We organized around it in the spring of 2013. We've been building an organization all this time. And, you know, most of us have worked in a bit of a massive lack of understanding by people around us. Now we're seeing broad evidence that this is true, that this is happening, and it is not far away. I mean, every country is experiencing this all over the world. These corrupt leaders and influence peddlers are being removed from power. And, you know, you know, for years, as we endured the leadership of cabal presidents in the United States and saw how they were rigging the system, so it was almost impossible to get around them. We saw that in last November, a year ago, that the good people, the white hats, were able to just step up and stop it. And so we have a president of the United States that is not a member of the cabal, and he is the white hats have taught him everything that they have learned in the past 30 years about stopping this. And so it's manifesting. And we need to be able to understand that it's manifesting and step up with our communities, let them know that we have been aware of this, we've been planning and organizing around it. And as we get their attention, we can easily show them different websites and proof. I mean, they talk about a PACER website in the U.S., which basically lists all indictments, sealed or not. And this number of sealed indictments is incredible. It has never happened. And it is clear that the news blackouts that we're experiencing now are related to this. You know, it's not really an option to not stop these people and not do it pretty much as soon as possible. So we've got to step up ourselves to get with the leadership of these communities and let them know that this is not news, that we've been preparing for it and they can depend on us to be there for them. And we need to do that for them. They are not prepared, but we are. So
that is amazing, because look at the you know, Dane, look at the wealth of knowledge, wisdom, understanding that this group has. Mm-hmm. And these are just from just a few of the members of the, you know, 100 or so participants today. And if you could see how, you know, we were able to have this forum and it gives us that picture of, you know, stepping into the awareness and then working with the light and disciplining ourselves to take action and march to the places where we need to be. Or we can be healers to those who are marching, or to those who are supposed to be listening to help manifest. There's just so many avenues that we can be taking, and being here is part of that, I think. And also giving, you know, like the amount of things we can share with each other. In this one session, I've learned, you know, so many different concepts and so many different things from just a few of the members. Imagine what we're going to be doing on the scale of times 10 when this forms up, you know, even more. And I think it's like, as you said, we've got a lot ahead of us, right? We have a lot ahead of us.
Mm-hmm.
They're shutting his internet down, and
I'm looking at the screen. Everybody's frozen. I'm like, I'm waving to myself. But,
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we're right at the threshold, and you know, Cobra assures us that it's close, but he does not want to give a date or to encourage us too much, because it's not. There's really a kind of a you might call a backlash if it doesn't happen on schedule. We want to avoid that. You know, we just don't want that. That idea bouncing, oh, you said it was going to happen, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's like, but we have to prepare, and we know it's going to happen. Exactly when, we don't know, but we know we're getting close. The mass arrest is the most obvious thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I hope that today, Dane, our Leadership Forum members from around the globe were left with tools, and that today that we were able to look at the vision again, in a step-by-step format. It was really great, you know, on the outcome that we need to produce more of. We need more Allens. We need more Shwetas. We need more everybody's like that. So that's another paradigm problem that we need to fix. And I think you know, today was very productive in terms of our session for the Leadership Forum. And for those of you who do want us to change things or bring up topics like Aisha is bringing to me privately, there's a few, like how do we deal with our loved ones and the energies that surround them. I know Alan wants to speak, so I'm gonna close my point. But you know, email Dane and I. You know, we will these ideas will come to us. I swear to goodness, on the day of when we have this call. It seems to be that's how the flow of the energy is. And I'll let you speak, Alan. What was your point?
I just want to say, every day, thousands of people are becoming more awake, and it's obvious, and it just can't happen fast enough for my blood. But we just have to keep. I just want to remind everybody once again that the critical thing for us is to become more loving, more forgiving, more in service to others, and to meditate daily. These are the most important things that we have to focus on, and do what we can to be this, and we will speed up that day when the event will take place. Thank you. Thank you,
Alan. You know, that's so right. So many of us can get caught up in focusing on removing the ego, but if you focus on what Alan just said, you won't have to you won't have to make the effort to remove the ego. It will automatically melt away. I believe. Angela made some great points about that earlier as well. So with that, Dane, I'm going to move over to Christina. She wanted to say a final prayer. I'm looking at the chat. Is there anything else that we should bring up before we do that, Dane?
The volunteers meeting starts in just a few minutes. I'll be opening that as soon as we are finished here. I'll be sending out the meeting report probably later today. If you have anyone who has any notes or anything like that they would forward to me, they can send it to my Gmail address, dane.air@gmail, and I'll be sure to include that information. The meeting report,
for the next meeting, or do we have to log in somewhere? Do we have to stay here for the next meeting, or do we log in?
No, it's on the volunteers channel. Which, if you go to the website on the volunteers assembly page, there's a link to open it on your computer.
So those of you who are joining the volunteers meeting, thank you for doing that. And a reminder on just a real quick call to action for those who are doing the regional calls. Yes, we're working on putting those together, but we still need the requirements from you. I've only seen a few, one from Angelo and one from Mayo. If you go back to last week's meeting report, the high-level requirements were in there. We haven't set a time frame yet because we wanted to give you time to prepare things that you needed to send over to us. If it's taking time, that's fine, because I'm also taking time. As Dane knows, I'm swamped with other stuff in life too. So we get it. But please go back to the previous meeting report if you haven't, and check that if you're going to be leading in one of the regional calls. I get a lot of emails saying I would like to be in California for a regional call. I just wanted to quickly define that a region is part of a group of many countries. So if you are in that country, we will place you in that regional call. And we're trying to build up that list. If you have people like Alan does that you want to invite to your regional calls, please do so that you can take action, reach out to leaders, police chiefs, emergency responders in your community, those who will make a greater impact to do the greater good for all and for your loved ones as well. Which leads me to my last point. In our next leadership forum, hopefully we'll have some resource speakers. Angelo volunteered last time to do some kind of role play to how to handle objections from those who are not yet awakened, but they are attached to us at the hip because we're either related to them or we love them so much dearly, and how to help not resist those energies, but transmute them and make it for a positive impact for change. So with that, Christina, are you there? Are you ready to give your
I'm ready. I am ready, dear Jed. Thank you so much.
One quick call out. Germany is having their call tomorrow, according to Gertrude. So those of you who are here in the call, please connect with Gertrude. She's doing the country call for Germany. Thank you again, Gertrude. So Christina, back to you. Thank you so much for prayer for us. I'll leave it to you now.
Yeah, thank you, Jed. And this is a very powerful decree. And it's going to help us all to even avoid the ego. Anyway, there is nothing that will satisfy from now on but Ascended Master consciousness in everything we do. Okay, we are going to start. Beloved Mighty I Am Presence, charge everything in me with the Ascended Master consciousness. Charge my feeling with the Ascended Master's love. Charge my words with the Ascended Master truth. Charge my eyes with the Ascended Master sight. Charge my ears with the Ascended Master hearing. Charge my voice with the Ascended Master sweetness and Goddess blessing. Charge my body with the Ascended Master substance. Charge them with the Ascended Master's eternal youth and beauty and perfection, with the Ascended Master's ease and comfort. Charge my mind with the Ascended Master consciousness of all-knowing mind of God. Charge my hands with the Ascended Master gifts of freedom and perfection. Charge my being and world with the Ascended Master's invincible protection and limitless supply of every good thing, including riches of money, in my hands and use right now, this instance, and forever self-sustain until I am ascended and free. If you will only use this almighty I am present and those words, Ascended Master consciousness and quality in everything we do, you can only never again experience anything but that almighty perfection and freedom. Thank you, dear, for helping to do this decree.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Christina. That was very beautiful. And with that, as Lily Patrick says, thank you all. Meditate often. Send your unconditional love to all. Laugh as much as possible. Keep your vibrations up. Love and blessings to all. Thank you for joining the first week of December's Prepare for Change Leadership Forum call. Thank you, Dane, for arranging and organizing this. And thank you to our resource speakers today for making our open space forum a very, very wonderful forum for today. Good day to you all. And if you would like to reach out to us to be a speaker in our next community call leaders, please do. We'll look forward to that. Namaste, blessings to you. As we say in the Philippines, salamat, and have a wonderful day.